So there was this article in the New York Times the other day about Putin's forever war, and it quoted Dmitry Peskov. And Peskov said that Putin, this is the article, and now I'm going to go to the Pravda article here. Putin would win an election by 90% of the vote. And it struck me so odd that Peskov would say that, and then I realized what was happening. So, and Peskov actually complained about that in the day after the New York Times article was published, because he said that, well, he was misquoted. Well, this is Pravda. Okay, so Pravda is quoting him properly, you would think, right? Peskov said Putin will be reelected in the presidential election next year with a result of more than 90% of the vote. And then he said, our presidential election is not really a democracy, it's a costly bureaucracy. Mr. Putin will be reelected next year with 90% of the vote. Okay, so he wasn't misquoted. This is actually what it said in Pravda as well. But Peskov actually thought he was bragging about something where it's almost like the guy that thinks like he's bragging because he has a 99 IQ, and like he thinks he's on, like, with a 99 IQ, he thinks like he's better than everyone else, where that's actually average. That's what Peskov was actually doing here, because he didn't understand really how a democracy works. Now, to some degree, I don't fault him. Like, if you look at this map, this is presidential democracy, and green is a parliamentary democracy. So look at for blue and green. These are the kind of countries that we really understand in a free election kind of world, and even in some South and Central America can be a little spotty, but still, nonetheless, he comes from this civilian dictatorship, or Africa's mostly civilian and military dictatorship, and you see that's why Africa kind of aligns pretty well with Russia. That's free, that's different. Okay, but he's talking about, well, 90% of the vote, so he's trying to show how awesome Putin is. But that's actually showing that it's not a free and fair election, and that's what's really happening when he makes that kind of claim. To kind of amplify that point, let's look at the 2014 Crimean election. Like, they kind of took over Crimea by force and then held an election, and I put that in air quotes, election, because it wasn't really a free and fair election. The official result from the Autonomous Republic of Crimea was a 97% vote for the integration of the region into the Russian Federation. Really? I mean, how many votes have you seen? Like, so I'm in the United States. In your own country, if it's a free, fair election kind of country, how many 97% votes have you seen? I've never seen one in my life, unless there was only one person on the ballot, right? So, yeah, if there's a competitor, that almost never happens. With an 83% voter turnout, really? 83%? So there's a couple things at play here, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But to amplify this point, let's look at the 2022 annexation elections. So this was just when they gobbled up the 4 oblasts here last year. So the results in Donetsk and Luhansk were, according to the results released by the Russian Central Election Committee through the DPR and LPR, 99.23% supported annexation in Donetsk, and 98% supported it in Luhansk. Really? That many people supported it? There's nobody that's like ticked that maybe this war might have killed my relatives and, you know, broken my house or whatever. The turnouts were 97% turnout and 94% turnout respectively. Now, all these 98.42 and 97.51 sounds better than saying 99 or 98. Okay, and that's intentional. That's something that Joseph Goebbels talked about. It was like, no, you don't do it that way. And Goebbels and Hitler were talking about, like, you don't say that 100% said this or 55% said this. You say 55.239% or something along those lines. Okay, let's go back and look at what happened in Kherson. Of According to the figures released by Herzon, the Central Election Committee, 87.5% supported the annexation. And then if we go down a little bit further and we look at Zaporizhia, we see that 93.11% favored joining the Russian Federation, and the voter turnout was 85%, all too high. And because it's all too high, we know that there's a actual problem here. Okay, but they don't really understand that. Let's look in the United States. Margin of victory. This is Ballotopedia. The margin of victory. Well, actually, let's skip that. Let's look at Fair Vote. Fairvote.com shows the average margin of victory, the winner's percentage of all votes cast minus the second place candidate's percentage. And it can be pretty slim, the margin of victory, 5.2%. And then it can be pretty robust, 40-50%. In Massachusetts, there's no Republicans actually to speak of in Massachusetts. So that's essentially anybody who's running, you have to be a Democrat, right? And so, but nowhere is there in a free country anything approaching 90%. Anywhere. We're talking about a national election where the leader of the country would win, according to Peskov, 90% of the vote. That means it's not a free and fair election. But he can't really see that because he doesn't understand. And that's really my point. Like where he comes from, yes, we're playing democracy. This is how the game is played. Now the trick is that they believe that in the West, your elections are all rigged too. Like whatever they do, they believe that we do. Oh, our media lies, and our media just does nothing but make up and fabricate narratives. Now, Western mainstream media does have some spin to it, no question. But they also do fact-checking along the way. They are trying to make sure that they're grounded in something, even if they have a narrative to go with it. The Russians think, well, we lie? Of course you lie. I mean, when we rig elections, of course you rig elections. So that's the world that they come from, because what they really are doing is more than anything, they're playing house. I mean, it's not real. They're just playing the game, and so that's why Peskov would make a statement like this. Okay, I hope that helps you understand what's happening and why it's happening and why he would make this kind of claim, thinking that he's making some pronouncement of how tough Putin is, that he would win 90% of the vote in the election next year. And it actually just shows that what's actually happening is that he's part of a dictatorship, and that's the reality. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for the coffees, the super chats, the likes, the subscribes. Thank you more than anything else for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine. I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you will be too.